How do we overcome platform overwhelm as a content creator? With so many different platforms out there, which platform is the best return on our investment? While I am on a seemingly never-ending spiral trying to figure this out for myself, I do have some guidelines that as a full-time content creator have allowed me to focus in enough to achieve some level of success, i.e. get my bills paid. And I want to share these guidelines with you to hopefully help you focus in a bit and give you some peace. Because how you choose to show up on different platforms can make or break your sanity and potentially your career. I think we can all agree that there are too many platforms. And as they all race to beat each other, to be the best one, they all seem to be becoming more and more like each other. Like I remember back in 2016, you were either like a blog girl or a YouTuber. Nobody really expected you to have both. And then from there on out, every platform felt really distinct. You had Instagram for your photos. The bloggers were using Pinterest as a vehicle to drive traffic to their blogs. And if you really had your finger on the pulse, you had a Twitter account, but no one really expected you to be there. But now, as a creative business owner, it would be absurd, or at least incredibly unstrategic, to not be at least on the big three of TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, even if you're just using YouTube for short form. And you are leaving money, opportunities, and community on the table if you don't also have a website, a Pinterest account, a Threads, a Snapchat, a LinkedIn. Yes, we have LinkedIn influencers now, and have a newsletter and a podcast. And I know that not only am I probably missing something, that by the time this video comes out, some of these might have already died and come back, or have been usurped by one of the more fringe platforms that you should probably be an early adopter of, just in case it becomes the next big thing. But as much as we know we should be everywhere, as the potential platforms that we could be on continue to bloat, even I've had to admit that it is literally impossible to give our all on all of them. Honestly, not even just to give our all, it feels impossible to just be moderately consistent on all of them. So how do we decide where to put our focus? First, we're going to talk about some key principles / guidelines to keep in mind when you are trying to figure out what platform or platforms you should be focusing on, because it's going to be different for everybody. And then I'm going to talk about a few different approaches that you can try to make creating on them a little less overwhelming. So there are 3 things you need to think about when trying to figure out if a platform is for you. First is your enjoyment. What you enjoy is so crucial to this process. Like, I am a huge believer in the power of a blog. And I have friends that have messaged me saying like, I know I gotta revive my blog. I have to spend more time over there, but I just really hate writing. Likewise, I know so many people are forcing themselves to create short form content, but they hate it. If it feels like work, if it feels like a whole other job for you, a job that you don't like, you're not going to be consistent on it. It's gonna show in your content, you're gonna get burnt out. It's not great. I think a lot of people forget that if you find success by doing something, succeeding and continuing to succeed is going to mean doing more of that thing. And I like to think that most of us who pursue content creating do it because we enjoy it. Because at that point, just get a 9-to-5 that you don't mind and that pays you consistently and sustainably. Something really crucial to remember is that people are finding a way to make a living off of every platform. People are still killing it with the Pinterest blog combo. Those tend to be people who like a little bit of analytics and strategy and like playing the game. And yes, very often enjoy writing. There are people over here thriving off of just like Twitter and a newsletter, or at least they were. I deleted my account. But honestly, I'm seeing the same thing happening over on LinkedIn. The key is to not be on a platform just because you feel like you have to, because you think it's where the money is. Next thing is your audience. Ask yourself what platforms your audience is on. It might not be the ones you think they are. People with an audience made up of baby boomers and even Gen X are still thriving on Facebook. I met somebody last year who literally her primary platform is Facebook. That's where she gets her brand deals. That's where she gets ad revenue. Instagram for her is just kind of like her fun platform. Understanding what platforms your audience is on also comes down to understanding the intent of the people you're trying to reach. Are they just scrolling, randomly searching for inspiration or entertainment? Then sure, Instagram and TikTok are probably great choices. Or are you creating content for an audience that is intent on executing something? They want to make a decision, start a project, buy something so they need a review, or do they need directions for a how-to? Pinterest, blogs, or YouTube, anything with like still really strong search motivated algorithms are probably your best bet. And finally, number 3, you need to know what your goals are. What is the point of the content that you're creating in the first place? This is honestly a tough one. And I think it's honestly why I flip-flop a lot. It's not even that my goals aren't clear, it's more so that they just evolve so quickly. I have like shiny object syndrome. Anytime I check off a goal, I am like, okay, cool, let's like move on to something completely different. Anyways, knowing your goals will absolutely determine which platforms you should be spending your time on. Are you trying to sell a product or a service, build authority, become a thought leader, create awareness, connect with a community? Even something as simple as like, I want to make money as a content creator is not specific enough because there's so many ways to monetize this space. There's brand deals, there's affiliate programs, there's again, selling your own products and services. If you go down the path of becoming a thought leader or an expert, maybe your money is in making courses or ebooks or becoming a public speaker. So let's talk about a few different ways to prioritize some of the different platforms. The first is to go far on a singular platform and then build up your foundation on others later. If you have the focus and stamina for this, I really do think there is a case for going all in on a single platform. And once you've amassed an audience there, started making money there, it might be easier to branch out to other platforms after, maybe even to hire help to branch out to other platforms after. The pro of this is naturally that you're able to be a master of one versus a master of none. When all of your energy and time and effort is focused on building the reps in on a single platform, really understanding how to navigate it, its algorithms, you're going to be able to grow faster. And I feel like this is a really good idea if you really resonate with a single platform and if you're not somebody who gets boxed in or like claustrophobic just focusing on a single platform. But there are a couple cons to this. First, you do have all of your eggs in one singular basket, which the more and more we see how volatile social media changes can be, it can be very risky to just stack all of your cards in favor of a single platform that could go bankrupt tomorrow, that could switch up its algorithms on you, could suddenly decide that they're, I don't know, banning beauty content or something ridiculous. And then there is the potential of missed opportunities. And I feel like that's something that if you choose this route, you just have to be okay with. But say you've gone all in on YouTube and a brand really wants to work with you, they love what you're doing, but really strict from the top, they are only doing partnerships on Instagram right now. And that's something that has actually happened to me for this channel. I wanted to partner with a brand to do like some lighting setup, and they said, that's great, but we're only partnering with Instagram creators right now. And my Instagram account for Creating with Kea is so neglected. So I just had to take the L. But again, the whole idea behind this avenue is that eventually, once you have a really strong foundation, you do get to branch out. So if you have the patience, it will probably pay off in the long run. So the next one is to choose just 2 platforms that are completely different. It's the one-in-one method. And there's a couple different ways you can approach this. So you could do one long-form platform and one short-form. That will usually look like pairing either a blog, a YouTube channel, or even maybe a newsletter with short-form content. I feel like that could also kind of be seen as like one high-effort platform and one low-effort. But I don't know, sometimes short-form for me feels like more effort than the long. You could also look at it as one platform for discovery, one platform for community. So one where you know that it's going to help you get your content in front of more people, build your brand awareness, and a platform that is going to be for fostering deeper conversations and connection with your community. Now, most platforms are prioritizing discovery, or at least building an element of discovery into their algorithms. But some of these platforms do still have a potential for viable community. Like YouTube is still also huge for community. It has the community tabs, long form videos, people are usually having conversations in the comments. People feel more connected to you. But you could also take this community as something completely different. It could be starting a Patreon. It could be building out a newsletter. It could be starting a Discord. Another one-in-one could be fleeting and evergreen. So Instagram, TikTok, the shelf life of those platforms are so fleeting, whereas a blog, a YouTube, Pinterest can help your content be found for years and years and years down the road. You could also do an instant gratification platform and a long game platform. Instagram and TikTok are kind of known for those like immediate dopamine hits. You put it out and in a pretty short period of time, you're gonna know if it's gonna perform well or not. And I also find that's kind of why those platforms suck us in more. It feels like we're seeing the needle move a lot quicker in comparison to something like YouTube, a blog, or Pinterest, which really take time to build out. But again, like the longevity and the payoff of like an individual piece of content that you make can be so much greater. I do think the pros and cons of this approach will depending on the pairing that you choose. While you might not become a master of one as quickly as if you were just focusing on a single one, you will be able to get your reps in there quite quickly. You are going to be able to learn those two platforms pretty inside and out without hopefully getting too overwhelmed. Then there is the 80-20 rule, mostly focusing on repurposing. This is where you're going to focus 80% of your time and effort on a single platform, and then with your 20% effort, sprinkle your content everywhere else. But with your 20% of time here, you're not really going to be spending time curating content that feels super unique to each platform or speaks to each type of audience on each platform. You're just focused on being present, like having your hand in the cookie jar of each platform, so that if a brand says, hey, can you do Instagram content? You can be like, yes, I absolutely do. They say, can you post on LinkedIn? You can say, yes, I absolutely do. And this actually worked very well in my benefit because I recently got a deal on LinkedIn with a brand that I normally just do Instagram and YouTube content on, but they had a partnership with LinkedIn, and so they wanted content posted there, and good thing, I had a presence there and had already optimized it to be a public account. So whatever your main piece of content is, you're going to find a way to chop it up, remix it, and make it fit on as many other platforms as possible. For example, if your main platform is Instagram, and you have your reel, you're gonna just straight up repost it to YouTube Shorts, TikTok, maybe you'll upload it to Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, because yes, LinkedIn has videos now. And while perfect world, yes, you would be re-editing, maybe adding a new hook or new text information for each of these platforms, you're only allotting 20% of your time to it. So if you can do that, great. If not, your focus is just getting it out there. Maybe you do long form YouTube videos and you just embed your YouTube video in a blog post with the transcript underneath. You take out some of the key information and make a threads thread. And if you're feeling really fancy or you have the time within your 20%, you can chop it up and make short form content out of it. But everything in this method revolves around what you spend 80% of your time on. I think the huge pro of this is that you, again, are almost everywhere, or everywhere that fits your enjoyment, your audience, and your goals. That way you're not missing out on any potential opportunities. But anything that you're focusing your 20% on, your expectations have to be real low. You're not expecting it to perform to the extent of your 80% platform. You really have to curb your expectations with this one. And I feel like probably the hardest too is staying focused, because when you are just kind of splattering content everywhere, you never know how something is going to perform or kick off. Like for me, I don't really care too much about YouTube Shorts, but I have definitely just straight up reposted some of my Instagram Reels there. And sometimes something will kick up, and again, it's that shiny object syndrome. And you're like, ooh, maybe I should just start really focusing on YouTube Shorts because that performed so well. And it just throws off your entire strategy over a single video. And I think it is important to consistently analyze your content as you're doing this strategy. And if you are seeing a trend where you're getting like an incredible return on investment for something you're only dedicating 20% of your time and energy to, then maybe it is worth a pivot, but you should hopefully look at that over like a month or two of data versus just a single pop-off. I do think a potential downside of this too is, of course, that because your satellite platforms aren't getting as much love, the numbers are going to be lower and it is easier to kind of get defeated. And I do feel like it is probably the method that leads to burnout the most, because you still have that feeling of being everywhere. You're still signing into these platforms, you're seeing other people's content and seeing it perform really well. And I feel like comparison can set in really easily. I have said time and time again that one of the things that allowed me to be a full-time content creator while being so small was the fact that I was on so many platforms. I quit my day job when I had about 12,000, I think, Instagram followers, but I also had like a couple thousand scattered everywhere. And while none of those individually might have been particularly appealing to a brand, when a brand reached out to me for Instagram content, I could upcharge them at a relatively low fee for them to repurpose or create content on all of the extra platforms that I owned, as a way for them to get additional reach without them having to hire a whole other creator for that platform. So I hope that that made you less overwhelmed rather than more. If you can't tell by the way I talked about each of these strategies, I think my personal strategy aligns most with the 80-20, which is ironic because, like I said, I think it can lead the most to burnout, and I have definitely been burned. I don't know, I feel like the one-in-one strategy is the most efficient and like the most strategic, but I personally still feel a little boxed in by only focusing on 2 platforms. So my 80-20 right now is mostly focusing on YouTube, then repurposing to my blog and Pinterest. I hope this was helpful to get you a bit out of your platform overwhelm funk. And if you want more content creating tips, watch this next.